Welcome back to the Super Spectrum, everyone. I hope you guys enjoyed the last couple shows where I was going solo dolo, but today I actually got more than I ever wanted. My two brothers, Trevor and James, known you guys, or I've known James for so long, and Trevor quickly became my other best friend. But I'm so happy to be with both of them today. And so you guys already know Trevor.
Yep.
James, me and him go back to high school, and you guys are going to love him too. So today we're going to be reviewing Paths of Glory. That's the fourth film by Stanley Kubrick, and it corresponds with Cancer, the sign ruled by the moon, and going from the end of June through the no, to sorry, yeah, the end of June to the end of the July, end of July. Um, the Cancer I always think of could not make it today. She was in my life since I was a baby. We all know Katie. If you're a fan of Super Spectrum, James knew her personally, and um, he's also a viewer of the show, so he gets to see her through that too. But yeah, no, we couldn't have Katie on today, but hopefully we're gonna review the Odyssey all together, and she's planning to see that, so we'll have her back for that. Um, as you all know, we're doing each film in Stanley Kubrick's filmography, and I've found that they were corresponding to each sign of the zodiac. If you just take out Spartacus, which would technically be his fifth film, if you take that out because he didn't edit it, which he edited all of his other films, the other 12, then you're left with those 12 films that he did direct, write, and edit. So he had complete control over those films, and um, I do think that he was trying to encode the knowledge of the zodiac in them. So far, we've been able to really just pin down exactly how he did it in the first three films. Gemini was a little weak, although it was his most methodical film so far and concise and focused as, the intelligent, wise, um, and logic driven, planned out mercurial Geminis are. But today's film, I did a lot of note taking. Not a lot of it was with the Cancer sign, but believe me, when we get there, another kind of just um, really, really easy case to make that he was trying to do that because it's at the heart of the film. Um, with all that being said, I'll do my little intro, and then we're gonna just rotate through our notes until we're all done sharing our notes. We're gonna cover so much, guys. I personally am going to break down, as I always do, a lot of the symbolism and things that I've not heard people talk about. Um, and yeah, so with no further ado, here we go. Paths of Glory states its thesis within the film's first character dialogue. The first words that the general's commander says to him come in the form of a compliment about how nice the commander thinks the general's palace is. The general responds that he tries to create a pleasant working atmosphere for himself. This can be easily juxtaposed with the cramped trenches he has created for his soldiers to fight in. For the general to create a good working atmosphere for himself, he must create a terrible one for his inferiors. The same inferiors he claims to care so much for, all the while ignoring their signs of trauma. These dynamics are the titular paths of glory. So I know James and I talked about, he brought it up even before seeing the film. I'd like to also share he's a veteran, and you know, I think this is going to be a personal film for him. But um, he brought up how there's a cost of valor, and yeah, I think that the general is very greedy with the cost that he's taking from all of this, these the path towards glory for him, and you know, really for him, it's mostly for him. But anyways, I wanted to share that. Hope you guys liked it. It's wordy, so, and I hope you guys understood what I was saying. But basically, you know, that first scene encapsulates the power structures, the hierarchies, um, the, you know, social climbing, and yeah, greed driven aspects of the film. You guys want to comment on that before we go on? James is going to bring up the history right after this, so we can start talking about that, because that's, like you said before, that should go in the beginning of a review. So you
Well,
guys
I
want to talk
think
about this first?
with what you were saying there, like the kind of dynamics of the differences between how nice the general's quarters and everything that all these officers are doing, and like just how god awful everything is with like the actual warfare. It's like it is very interesting. Like not too many movies show that, and that's something like even in my own personal experience with the military, there's a huge difference between being an enlisted person and being an officer. Like going through basic training at one point, I was doing the exact same training as a group of officers, and they were all allowed to have whatever they wanted to eat. They weren't limited to like eating MREs and stuff like that. Specifically, they could have whatever food they wanted. They were allowed to smoke and have tobacco products and all that stuff, and I was not allowed to do any of that. But we're at the same exact point in training, you know? So it's even something like up through modern times that's a huge stark difference between officers and enlisted people.
Good point, James. And I do think that is one idea they touch on, a nuance that they add, which is something you hinted at. Um, they kind of do it in front of you, so to get you to, oh, you want to be an officer one day?
Yeah.
You want to be further up in the pyramid scheme? Heck yeah, like we'll keep going, bro. And that's what the commander does to the main character at the end of the film. Like, you know, like, oh, you did all that so that you can you could take his job, right? And
Mhm.
like it's crazy. Like, yes, that he represents that machine of, you know, usury, and yeah, whatever you want to call it. But crazy, crazy, crazy. So cool that like we have this this real life perspective, because I had no idea like officers are allowed to smoke. Like when I was going for like ride-alongs with the fire department, um, no one was allowed to smoke, because you guys are going to be getting Medicare and pensions from these people. Why, you know, like, James, is this something that is like, you know, like on the down low, and like, or just like complete,
Oh
because
no,
it's
it
completely
was
not enforced?
white out. I mean, and that's kind of a weird thing with the military. Like those officers that were in training technically outranked the drill sergeants that were in charge of me. So
Right.
because of the way that the power works and like the officer structure and all that stuff, there's nobody there to tell them not to do that. So it's right out in front of you that they don't care. They do whatever they want.
What do you think of that, Trevor?
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I have heard some. You can probably. Were you in training? You were saying.
Yeah, I was going through basic training and they were going through OCS, but we were at like the exact same point in training. It was a land nav course.
Right. But people can sneak stuff in, right? Like where people
I
still smoking what they weren't supposed to, or
I
because
don't
I've
know
heard
that they
some.
weren't supposed to or not. They were just like a different level than like I wasn't supposed to, but we were doing different things, you know?
Right, that's good at least. I've just all I am thinking is that I have heard some crazy stories about basic training and like you can still party, but
Oh
it's
yeah,
definitely you'll get in trouble if you get caught. But
yeah, definitely.
there's no partying though in this movie, unfortunately,
No, not at all.
except with what you are describing. That was a very stark contrast moment when they're dancing. I watched this
Oh
with
yeah.
my sister, and I jokingly said, like when they were having an actual party, uh, I didn't know this was a part of war. They're like literally in war, and then there's just this scene of like a ballroom dance.
That part was crazy.
Yeah, I don't know where Mike just went, but
Just let honey out.
okay.
All right. So yeah, and then when the sergeant is drinking, remember?
Mm.
All right. So James, you want to bring up some history on the
Yeah.
film, please?
So that's kind of a thing that I get really into with movies. I like to know like the production history and stuff like that. So like the main couple points that I wanted to bring up are that the movie was adapted from a book. It was Humphrey Cobb's 1935 novel, which is based on a real life account from World War One, where the French soldiers were executed to cover up a military failure. Um,
Kubrick finds the best books, bro.
yeah,
Continue, please.
the book is in French, so it's kind of difficult for me to. I don't know how to pronounce French, but maybe I'll send it to you so you can link it in the video or something. Um, Another part of it is that Kubrick was only 29 years old when he directed this movie, which is insane to think about. Like, especially with all of the themes and like how profound a lot of those themes are for somebody at 29 years old to come up with all of that. Um,
Definitely.
the I only have 4 points. So the third point on that or on the history is that a lot of the studios rejected it at the time because in 1957 there weren't a whole lot of bleak films about like upsetting depictions of war. So Kirk Douglas actually used his own production company to back the movie with $1 million in funding. Then the screenplay was co-written with the legendary noir pulp author Jim Thompson, who wrote The Killer Inside Me, which helped to inject that dark, cynical edge into the dialogue.
Okay. So co-written the screenplay,
Yes,
the adaptation.
Jim Thompson, who wrote The Killer Inside Me, helped co-write the screenplay. Yes.
Thank you, James. Those are all great great facts that we could all expand our knowledge from. I wrote my points for history. Trevor has other notes. Trevor, but since you haven't gone yet, do you want to share your history notes first, if you have any history notes?
um, I just had a I just kind of have random things written down, not really like points or notes, but
Well, we're going to keep on history first.
right. This is
Is this
kind of
about?
like
Yeah.
history.
All right. Cool. Cool.
Um, just like the like when I first was watching, I was like, wow, this is so ahead of its time. Like, I can't believe this came out in the 50s. Like they were talking about, you know, kind of like I guess it wouldn't be like a false flag, but kind of like in that
A cover
realm
up.
of like a cover up, yeah.
Hmm.
And but also I recently heard, I don't know where I heard this, but I heard someone saying recently that after the World War, like during a war, you could never really make this or make a movie that has like these nuanced or like deeper uh ways of looking at the war, like who's the good guy, who's the bad guy or whatever. But like um after World War II would have been like the best time, or where they would make movies more like this, which I never really thought of, because also now you wouldn't really want to make a movie like this. You could, like, lots of people could make, I could see a movie like this coming out now, but like it's not really gonna be received very well, I would say, at least by like the mainstream, obviously.
Right. Yeah. There's movies like I think A Few Good Men and like Collateral Damage or Murder or something like that, and they came out either like one came out right before 9/11 and then one came out, actually probably both came out before 9/11. Anyways, but yeah, like off of wartime when yeah, it's probably like not going to be easy to get out a movie that's anti-war. Yeah, that's when these come out. All right. So, good point, Bub. Here's what I wrote for history. This film is when Kubrick met his wife. She's the German singer at the end of the film. She worked with him on his films as a concept illustrator after. And she also had an uncle that was a propagandist for the Nazis, which has led to conspiracies surrounding Kubrick and her.
Well,
Kubrick has been said to be the director of the moon landing, and that's America's propaganda, which ties in with the former Nazis that worked with NASA under Project Paperclip. I think an admission Kubrick might have tried to give us about all of this is not only present in The Shining, with all of its references to the moon landing and Apollo 11, but also hidden in messages about his involvement with the occult world in Eyes Wide Shut. Although the film, Eyes Wide Shut, wasn't his original story, it was another adaptation, I still think he might have seen a lot of his real life reflected in it, and so he might have chose it to he might have chose it on those grounds. But I think he might have. I have a typo here, but I think he might have focused autobiographical touches in the films, um, like really like parts in the book where he could have added in a little bit more that he was drawing from his own real life. I think that's those are the touches I'm talking about. Specifically, what I'm talking about though is how, according to some, there are hints that Cruise's wife Alice, played by Nicole Kidman in the film, is actually a member of the secret society portrayed in the film, and that she is the one who psychologically manipulates him to start him on his encounters with the cult members. This can all be meant to represent Kubrick being brought into a real life cult by his wife with Nazi connections, who might have also been his handler. On a side note, I think it's also interesting that he chose the leading actors of Tom Cruise, a real life Scientologist cult member, and Nicole Kidman, whose last name could be a reference to the Epstein type cult activities done with children who might be being groomed into becoming model/handlers. All right, so we're gonna we're gonna talk a lot more on that in our Eyes Wide Shut review, but we could keep it cruising if you guys don't have something you don't want to say about that. So we keep it more on the film, but yeah, that this is like always go into the occult aspect in all of the reviews. So there's not really one here, but since we were going on history, that's pretty big.
that
His wife. So, anyways, you guys want to comment on that before we keep going?
I just wanted to say that is a crazy good point. I did not know that, like, that is pretty crazy. His wife, you said she's the singer in that scene?
She is. Yep.
That's crazy that his wife is like portrayed on the screen as like a Nazi spoiler alert, but like, I mean, it's not really a spoiler, but like, she's
Right.
a captured Nazi. She is literally related to a Nazi, and the whole NASA thing, that's crazy.
100%.
Where did you
100%.
hear that, or like, how long have you
I've
known
been
that?
looking at I've been looking about Kubrick for a long, long time, and just known that fact.
That's
We've been
wild.
talking about Kubrick since high school, like his involvement with
Yeah,
the government and all of that stuff, like easily, but for years.
that's wild. I mean, that I've been aware of like the moon landing stuff since probably like high school, but I wasn't like deep in it. I did not know all that. So that's a very crazy thing.
Yeah, if my memory's correct, this Nazi propagandist was actually specifically a filmmaker for the Nazis, and so
That's insane.
would be perfect to help Stanley make propaganda for the American government, basically,
Right.
or to encode it with some touches of propaganda, because I do think he had creative freedom a lot. Anyways, but if your agendas align with the cult that you're in, then it doesn't really matter if you have creative freedom or not. You're already being a propagandist for them.
Mhm.
So let's with your intentions because they're aligned. So, anyways, all right. I just spoke. James, share. Would you like to share your next note?
Yeah, so are we moving on to kind of like plot breakdown type stuff?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So like I assume most people who are watching this have probably seen the film, but the setup is that a general orders an impossible attack on a German stronghold called the Ant Hill purely for political positioning and promotions. And then when these people that he sends to do this impossible attack fail at doing the impossible attack, he punishes them as cowards and calls for people to be executed, not really as a punishment, but as an example for everybody else that cowardice is punished that way. Um, really, with that, like the thing that was interesting to me in that whole thing was that the movie was completely opposite of how most war movies are. Like most war movies kind of start out with like these dudes are gearing up, they're getting ready to go do this thing, and then like the back half of the movie is all action. Where this was kind of completely opposite, where the first half of, well, not even the first half, like the first 30 minutes of the movie is these like crazy tight trench tracking shots, which are visually just stunning to say the least. They look fantastic. Um, and the movie does a great job of like depicting these trench settings in a way that feels like gritty and realistic. But it's interesting that the shift is like the beginning of the movie is warfare and the back half of the movie is bureaucracy and like the same thing that you were bringing up earlier where it's like that huge shift of like horrible muddy bullshit trenches to like elegant high class almost British royalty looking type places that these generals are hanging out in.
I just want to say a side note, like, wow, that or well, this isn't side note, but like first, wow, that you so eloquently just like captured the essence of the film, but and concisely, but while you were saying it, it just made me laugh. Here's a side note. We were just on the phone recently talking about how I used to have a top 50 movie list. You and I both had one when I was in or when we were in high school, and still like seriously just children. And because here's what I was just reminding James. I was like, I could have sworn I had Hugo, which is a Martin Scorsese film. I could have sworn it was on my top 50. Meanwhile, I'd never seen the movie before. And why I bring that up is because this film, I'm not sure about Hugo, but I could almost like no, I will say like it's probably in the drawer over there in my junk drawer. So Paths of Glory was on that, and I've never seen Paths of Glory. But I saw like
That's
the
right.
trench little, like Dolly Cam, and I was like, that's gonna be my favorite freaking movie. And I love Kubrick, and I'm obsessed with everything about that. So like, I just thought it was funny, and then yeah, it's just interesting that like it took so long for me to see this film. Actually, like this is the first time I've seen this film, and yeah, it totally like my top 10 is very different from what it was then, but like this movie, if my top 10 is just like they're equally I love them most. This movie pretty much hits all of the things that are on those top 10. It's just a little bit more personally, aligned. But anyways, crazy, crazy, crazy. And I'm happy I finally saw this film. Last part on the side note, just so I remember. So far, I've loved Fear and Desire and this movie the most, but this movie I do like more than Fear and Desire so far, in the way it's been sitting with me. I do think it's, just like overall a better film, but I think, Fear and Desire has like a little bit of a crazy factor that, well, this is a trippy movie, and in just its plot alone, that these injustices could even happen. So, anyways, wanted to bring all that up. Sorry, Trevor, you want to go ahead, or James, you want to say anything about that?
I don't have any notes really, but on that, but that is funny what you were just saying about well, what was the last thing you were just saying about the list? Oh, Fear and Desire. When I saw so I was on Fear and Desire was the first one, right? Of the Zodiac
Yes.
series
Yep.
thing. I
Uh-huh.
saw that one and was on that, but then I missed like the last couple, and it was really interesting going from Fear and Desire to this one because Fear and Desire is really trippy, like you said. It's also a war film, and it it was like his first one, so it was kind of like almost you could tell it was almost like a student film or something. Not like quality wise, but like budget wise, there was like no budget. It was like they're in a creek and they have uniforms, and there's like four of them. That was literally, and then seeing
Yes.
this one, like you were saying, with the trench warfare and the palaces and everything, that was crazy. And also one last super side note history thing, even though we've kind of moved on from that. I saw that like on Wikipedia or something that they had to film this in Germany actually, even though I guess it was in France in the film because the French government like doesn't want to make a movie where the French people are the bad guys, which was also, although it was based on a book,
Hmm.
that's also probably how they could get away with, not get away with, but like why they were making it wasn't about the American soldiers, so
The
Right.
book was
like
based on an actual event too, which is crazy to me. That's probably a big reason
yeah.
why France didn't want them shooting it there.
Right. Yeah.
Dude, France has like false flag stuff like in their history, with like assassinations and stuff. I can't really remember off the top of my head, but it's like
It
in
goes
there
deep.
in there it's like the official narrative is now that there was a coup. So like where we have JFK and the CIA, and there not being, definitive evidence that that was a coup. They have like one of those where it literally is like in their history books, which is very progressive, very cool. The truth of what the situation actually was. So I'll give them definitely big credit for that. I'm happy that's out there. All right, but Trevor, you were responding to me. Do you want to share your next your first note?
Um, Let me see here. I mean, like I said, I don't have anything too crazy here, but just some random stuff. But the there is yeah, I mean someone else can go. I don't really have much
I'll
here.
go.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Going back to the breakdown of the film now. The first comment made by the colonel's boss, the general, to sorry, I gotta read this better. All right, so let's go back to the breakdown of the film. Um, Love how James just recapped the entire movie, so for the viewer, they actually know they could kind of understand what we're talking about if they haven't seen it. But so going back to the breakdown, this in the beginning, first scene, the first, and I've already commented on this, but I'm gonna comment on it and share something different. The first comment made by the colonel's boss, the general. Sorry, let's just say so. The first comment made by the general to the colonel is a compliment. Oh, this isn't the first scene, no. All right, so it's just mirroring the first scene. Basically, the second scene is the general doing the same thing that the commander just did to him, compliment him about his place where he's living, his living quarters, and then he compliments the guy underneath him, where
Right.
those living quarters are nothing to compliment on. All right, so with this pattern of superior complimenting the living quarters of their inferior, we might also predict there might be a pattern with the living/working conditions becoming worse and worse from superior to inferior. This is obviously true for the general and the colonel's quarters, but might also be true when comparing the commander's quarters with that of the general's. It'd be hard to top the general's palace, and the commander's compliment about the general's palace might makes it seem like the commander must be living in less lavish conditions. Remember, because the commander is like, "Wow, this is really nice," but after seeing the blatant hierarchy between ranks, I wouldn't doubt the commander is living in complete luxury. And what do you get after a palace? Maybe like a secret society or a whatever. I mean, I won't go that far. Really, I don't. It's not really pointing to that in the film, but like what do you do after a palace? You know, what's better than a palace? Do you got like an
Get in the
underground
state.
thing that you guys are all talking about? You know, you're going to save yourselves in, like, because the general's probably not in on that yet. He doesn't get all that yet. You know, like, come on, like, this is crazy. What can be higher than a palace? I think the movie's alluding to that. Yeah, he's just blowing smoke up his ass, and the commander actually lives. The commander's blowing smoke up the general's butt, and he actually is living in much even better than a palace. So I can't imagine that. But anyways, all right. So James, where do you want to go after that?
The next point that I have written down is kind of talking about how this film actually kind of goes a bit beyond being an anti-war film. Like it's not just an anti-war film because it kind of goes into things that most films don't even touch on, which is like the bureaucratic cruelty and class warfare that goes on in these types of settings, where the like even in the film, the Germans aren't the villains of the film at all. The people, the enemy of the soldiers, are not the villains of the film. It's really the higher up French leadership, which is it's just an insane play on an anti-war film to show that side of things, where like um, that kind of really is how it is. Like the people who are above you don't really care about what's going on with you too much, as long as you're producing results. And when you stop producing results, you stop being uh, useful, and they get rid of you. And that's really like the big theme of the movie, in my opinion, that it shows is that it's like it is really that it's not always your enemy that's your enemy.
Beautiful,
Which,
James. That's exactly what
yeah,
my next note is on. So
Oh,
beautiful.
perfect segue.
Yeah. Well, Trevor, do you want to go?
I was just gonna say that, yeah, that is the crazier part of the movie, that they're fighting the Nazis, and like, instead it's all internal though. Like the bad guy, it's crazy to take, the people fighting the Nazis and showing them as the bad guy. I mean, it's not that black and white. It's not like good
And
guys
they're
and
not
bad guys.
exactly
But
Nazis yet. They're not exact. They're not. I mean, they're not Nazis. They're
right, right.
Austro-Hungarian.
It is, but still, like,
Yeah.
typically in a war movie, we're all on the same team here, and we're all going against
Yeah.
the bad guys. But in
No.
this
Yeah.
one,
That's
it's
beautiful.
like everyone's kind of, there's no, you know, it's all
So if we like remember that I talk about that's part of the game plan of the elite is like to have him to if this is true, if the credit I'm giving them is actually deserving, what they're trying to do is expand consciousness to not see so black and white. So to have your sympathy for the devil, them, that's one of the part like that's part of the programming, social engineering that they're doing. And for this, I know obviously in this film, they're like you can't even touch on any way that it could be interpreted as being evil, the way they're going about it, because like Germany is not really a huge. It's not like they're saying the Nazis are good in this film, but what it starts to make you think of is along those lines of what we're kind of saying, is that yeah, the bad guys aren't really the bad guys, which is kind of, it's a lateral thinking and yeah, nuance, which I think, like I've talked about in other videos, I think is the one of the goals of the powers that be. Check out our videos on Grow in the Dark. You'll see the title, and you'll know what I'm talking about. All right, so that's on this YouTube channel too. So moving on, going actually back to what James is saying. So the zone that the two sides of soldiers are fighting over, called the anthill, alludes to the higher-ups' view on these battles and their men. When the general sees it for the first time, he insults it, saying that he's seen much more formidable objectives. Everything to him is a competition of greater possessions. He is a maximalist materialist. Where he is loaded in physical wealth, he is void in spiritual. He's lost his humanity and looks at others as less than, and in his own words, he looks on them as utterly inexcusable, stupid. He literally talks about the enemies as, quote, all swarmed together like a bunch of flies, just waiting for someone to swat them. He says this right in front of his colonel, as if being completely unaware that the colonel's men have no other opportunity but to do the same as their swarming enemies. The colonel isn't so oblivious, and immediately responds by humanizing the actions of the other side's soldiers. Right? So yeah, just like, and all the people on the top side that aren't humbled and don't have an open mind, like the hero of this film, yeah, that's part of the people who need to be leveled up too, and they might just be carrying out shit that they have no idea they're doing, but all people on all levels of society need to have a more open mind and not be so tribalistic against others, and that's one of the most beautiful things about this film. So yeah, James, you want, or Trevor, if you want to share a note, it's been a little while, but whoever's got the next one.
You're good. James can go.
All right.
The other thing or the next thing that I have written down is kind of like the decimation and the like psychological horror that the dudes who are going to be executed go through. I think Kubrick does like a fantastic job of like showing true horror through those actors, and the actors themselves too. They do a fantastic job of acting that out. Where like especially the execution scene at the end when they're doing the blindfolds and the guy's walking out with the priest. That actor in particular just did a fantastic job of capturing like what I genuinely feel like it would be like to watch somebody walk to what is genuinely certain death. Like he knows he's walking out there to die. I think that was like they just did a really good job of capturing that, as well as like the final scene with the woman singing, Kubrick's wife, where like they're at the beginning of the song, they're kind of like jeering at her, and like it's like kind of a big joke to them, but you kind of see the horror of what just happened dawn on everybody. And like, I think that was like while she's singing and everybody's kind of like silent, and I thought that was really interesting. Like it was captured really well, the psychological horror of everything.
Yeah. And both of you guys have talked about this, but like how far ahead of its time this movie was. Like
Yeah,
these
absolutely.
nuances aren't picked up on in most films of that era at all. Like so yeah, this stands up today with the greatest films of all time. That's what I was
Agreed.
saying earlier too.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love the acting of the characters who are going to face death is so believable. There's not a single bad performance. Yeah, I just loved it. I'm gonna talk a lot about those guys at the. That's my last note, but yeah, Trevor, you want to go?
Well, I know you just said you're gonna talk about that more, but I thought of something like right before we started. I didn't really write down, but what James was saying reminded me. I noticed this weird thing they did with those three guys where, and I don't know if this will go into what you're gonna say at the end, but it may be completely unrelated, but they all three, as soon as they were in that cell together, they all had these like extremely emotional reactions. Like I don't remember their names, but the guy that he was initially sad about his wife and kids, and he was just like sad. And then that other guy, and they all were in there for like specific reasons. Like one of them was, being thrown under the bus. He was a scapegoat, which is something I was gonna talk about later, the scapegoat idea. But like, um, there was a guy thrown in as revenge, a guy thrown in kind of random, and then I forget the other guy.
There's
I
there's
don't.
like a lot of. That's exactly what I'm breaking. I'm gonna break down exactly
Okay.
what's going on with each of their little arcs.
Right.
That
Okay.
when I was watching that, I was like, yeah, this could be gone into deeply. And then like 1 or 2 a.m. I wasn't asleep yet, but I was like, I have to type this down right now before I forget because it all just came to me. All three of their, like what all of their, it's crazy. It's that's my favorite part.
Right.
We,
I might
how
not need
about
to
we
break.
talk?
Yeah.
Oh, it's right here. Is it?
Hmm.
Question. Yep. This is my next note. So
Okay.
it's my turn actually. So anyways,
Yeah, we can just
wow,
go
that's
into
crazy.
it then.
It's all been really synced up. So um, the questionable valor of the three soldiers on trial is interesting, especially when taken into account their fates. The one who actually never fought arguably ends up the worst, with him going unconscious before he's even executed. This seems almost deserved, as he is the only one who we know for certain chose not to fight, even though he was just following the herd. The soldier with a scar might have also partially deserved his execution, for although he claims to have been knocked unconscious by another soldier during the battle and was thus incapable of reaching the front, this might be a lie, as one of the judges points out, and especially as the general's own scar might suggest. That is, that both he and the general's scars might have been self inflicted. When I cracked that, I was like, whoa, because that perfect scar the
Hmm.
general has? Yeah, I bet he did that to himself so that he would look cool and blah 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 and get like, come on.
Yeah.
Uh, so I think that was on purpose. Because I was like, whenever I see a scar in a movie, I go immediately to the symbolism of that represents a transformation that the character's gone through. So
Mhm.
they're different from everyone else because they have the scar to show from it. But this is actually the opposite. Those scars could be manufactured.
Mm.
So the soldiers with the scars, yeah, his lie would seem more honorable than the general's, though, as he could have easily just lied in saying that he did reach the German front, but went back when he saw he was the only one. This would have been a lie that would have afforded him more respect, but maybe he had too much integrity, or maybe he thought it would have been less believable. Although that's doubtable, because the last soldier I have to mention gives almost this exact account, but says he only made it to the center of the battlefield before turning back because he and his friend were the only two soldiers left. He actually ends up being the best soldier, but only judging by the amount of suicidal orders he blindly followed to get there. This blind follower aspect is hammered home when he admits that he should have gone farther because he knew he could have won, which of course he couldn't, but only an easily suggestible and blind follower of psychopaths, which he is, would say that in such a circumstance. This blindness aspect is hammered home even further when he is the only soldier to take the blindfold at the end of the film in the firing line. So yeah, I that's what, like, this Kubrick, 29 years old, what the fuck, like, coming up with this stuff, like, even if this is in the book, maybe that the guy who made the book came up with these, or there's synchronicities that really show, like, character in all of these people. And but yeah, that's my favorite thing that I was like, because I don't think that's on the internet.
No,
Um,
that's
yeah.
that's
No,
wild.
that's like the first time I've heard any of that.
Yeah, because at first, I'm not even kidding. Like, I wasn't really, um, like, I was following what you were saying, but I didn't really agree with like that he does represent this like blind follower, like until he is the only one that puts on the blindfold. So like is kind of a direct symbol. It's not just like your opinion. It is kind of like it's symbolically represented. It's kind of obvious once you said that.
Right. He's
'Cause
he's suggestible too, right? Like
mhm,
he's that perfect MK Ultra person who you could get to kill anyone if you just put him in the right suggestible mind space. He's the
right.
person who you could put into that, right? And actually blindfold, like, basically blindfold them. Like, they don't know their reality is split into two different alter egos, like that. This stuff is real, and or at least I believe it's real. I believe it works like a dream. But anyways,
Mhm,
that's the type of person that character archetype is about.
Yeah.
That character is representing the easily brainwashed, and then completely afraid of death because he's never even thought about it before.
right.
He's an empty slate, perfect for molding to whatever he's told. So, like, yeah, we were gonna win. I could have won. Like, you were the
Right.
last two people in the entire squad on the battlefield, brother. Never
Yeah.
were you gonna win. But you know that that's what they want you to say, and that like, so you're literally killing you're like sacrificing yourself to them, which is this is basically, while thinking that they're the good guys,
Mhm.
which is what happens every day on
Right.
a mass scale for people who have no idea what they're doing, like, such as freaking 9/11. Like, once you know 9/11 happened, and then you go kill the people that, or at least what we have been told on 9/11 didn't happen, and the government was a part of it. Like, and if you know that and then you go to fight, that's, you're either lying to yourself, or, well, no, that's the thing. Those people don't know. The people who go and
Mhm.
fight, they don't know that. They don't feel that in their heart. Even if they've heard that, they don't feel it in their heart. And then that is that blank slate moldable to be an MK Ultra person, which you could argue is what's all of the soldiers are. At least if your war was proven, or at least if that war that the person is fighting is proven on to be a false flag, or proven to be manufactured. So
I mean, I think one thing that is shown in a lot of war movies is that like there are a lot of different people, like motives that each of these people have, and they kind of show that in this movie. But you are making a good point that like ideally, like the whole point of it is to kind of we're can you know MK Ultra, like get you on the mission and doing what the mission is, like getting it accomplished. One thing I was gonna add or say about the arcs of those three that got executed, I don't really have like a theory of why this is, but I noticed that they, um, the guy that has the wife and kids that you were saying, I think he's the lieutenant or something, but he's the guy that potentially lied. I don't really, personally, I don't really think he lied. He could have though, like you said, he might have lied.
Right.
But I
It's
just
not-
noticed
not
that when he goes into when they're on the cell at first, waiting to be executed, he's sad and upset about his wife, and he talks to the priest, and then the other guy that ends up becoming injured, he's pissed off, and then the other guy that you were describing, the MK Ultra blind guy, he was like, "We're gonna get out of this. Like, don't you worry
Ooh, yeah,
about
right.
me." He's like,
Completely delusional. Delusional.
right." And
That's
then when
like
they
That's
kind
get
of furthers your point too, like of the like you got to be blind to do
Yeah.
this.
But then they all
To
three
think and you're saying to think that you're going to get out of that, you're
Yeah.
blind completely.
right. And what I noticed that I don't have a reasoning for, but it seems on purpose, is that once they're all on the post about to be executed, they all like completely flipped, like in their emotional. The one guy was literally unconscious, the guy that was pissed off, and then the
Right.
guy that was sad, he almost like took it in stride, which leads me to believe that he wasn't lying. Like he kind of died with honor in a sense, or seemingly like he. And then the guy who was super confident was like crying, obviously, and blindfolded.
Right.
So
And
that's a
They
weird.
turned into their shadows.
Yeah.
They
Right.
turned into their repressed shadows, and they they in a way like represent the in the way that they're all kind of they're not to blame, they don't really deserve it. When I said they deserve it, it's like they don't, but in the circumstances they almost do. And that represents this mindset by the elite that if these people are falling for it, or if these people are not stopping it, then the test has to keep going because they haven't evolved to pass the test yet.
Mhm.
And that's why they would say that we are and they are deserving of this fate, which I don't know if that was intended in the film, but I think easily could have been. With the way, I mean, like, yes, this movie is, we're told it's made by Kubrick, which I believe too. And I believe all these like wise God, messages that need to be heard could have been something he wrote completely by himself and maybe didn't intend for all of them, but like yeah, I could easily have also imagine like, oh, maybe this is the first one where the Nazi propagandist got involved, right?
Yeah.
No, but yeah, no. Anyways, just fun to talk about. Anyways, this movie's amazing, so beautiful. All right, and now whose turn is it?
I have one closing point that I would like to get to. I saw a quote after watching the film from Francois Truffaut, where he once famously argued that it's impossible to make a true anti war film because cinema inherently makes combat look exciting. And I think that Paths of Glory is possibly the first true anti war film I've seen because it subverts that idea. It makes the combat look scary more than anything. Like the whole trench scene is very like claustrophobic, grimy. There's a like amazing sense of hopelessness in it, like throughout the entire scene. So it does a great job of making the combat look more scary than exciting. Um, and it's the tragedy of it isn't in like your brother's dying, which is what most war films do. It's like, oh man, it's so sad that this dude's friend died. Um, but that's really not what this movie does at all. The tragedy is completely like detached from that. And I think it does a fantastic job of actually making a true anti-war film that shows like the levels that go up of like these people that are in charge do not care about the people who are doing the fighting. They're just warm bodies to fill a void.
Yeah, that's a very good closing point of the film. Like, that is wild.
Right. Yeah. I'm just trying to think of like other anti-war films, and yeah, like it doesn't glorify it at all. Oh, you guys got to see the Odyssey though, because yeah,
I'm planning
okay.
to see that 2 weeks from now.
Perfect. Can't wait. Trevor's
Think-
gonna see it at the end of the month, which would be around then, right?
Yeah,
You're
Yeah,
gonna
I'm
see
gonna
it
see
in
it.
IMAX.
Yeah,
yeah, end of the month for me too.
Perfect. All right.
I might go
So
see it tomorrow as well. I did have
Yeah.
one
Mhm.
one last closing thing as well. If you were about to wrap the show.
no, I got two more small
Oh,
things.
okay,
Three
cool.
more. Okay. Do you yeah, if you want to keep it fresh in your
This
head,
isn't.
say now, go ahead.
Yeah, because also it's not really like that was a good way of putting the point of the film. This isn't really the point of the whole film, but is it my last thing I have here that's just like a something I noticed that is extremely ahead of its time as well. And it's the idea beyond war of like sacrifice, which we talk about a lot on this show. It comes up a lot. Sacrifice, I feel like, on both of the shows too, like Grow in the Dark mostly, but and scapegoats. There's literally a line in the movie. I don't remember who says it to who. I know it was one of the top ranking generals saying like, "You're gonna make me the goat," literally saying like, this is all about the scapegoat, which is a very obvious
Hmm.
trope, but it's creepy and
And
out of the
he's so
ordinary.
tapped into it that he like he never talks about the scapegoat before, but the second he's about to become the scapegoat,
Yeah,
that's the point you're
that
making. Yeah, that's
yeah,
wild.
that's a spooky thing that anyone has ever portrayed, which is like the guy who's like he that's just spooky, like truly freaky, that
Right.
because it's showing that there are people like that. And but the thing that's really crazy and ahead of its time, I mean, or is the when they Dax goes to talk to the top guy in the palace, and he brings up how it's all about politics and media. And at first I was kind of like, well, why would executing, people, that would seem bad to me, and obviously in modern media that would be insane if that happened. But
It's
it's the
about the
idea,
optics.
it's the
The
optics that
perspective.
like we failed. They're showing that they admitted that the troops failed and they're being punished for not serving the country, or for, essentially they're saying they abandoned their country. But in reality, they don't even care about that. They care that the blame isn't pushed back on them.
Mhm.
And one last thing,
Wow.
that to tie it back to your point, is that I was gonna say this earlier, that Mike, when he's or Bare Truth, when he says that there are that the elites are trying to, through these movies and through people like Stanley Kubrick, they're trying to show, they're trying to expand your consciousness, like you were saying, or something like that. And I used to disagree with you a lot on that. I used to think like they're just trying to destroy our souls, and like they want us to like suffer or something. Like they just
But
want to.
you've brought me more over to like of a balance of that is
We've
where
balanced each other because.
right. A lot of really just the what I
Mhm.
think a lot of it is like it's a test all the way up and down. It's like we wouldn't have these events and these movies like would not be being even programmed into us if there weren't people to run those tests, which are the middlemen between, which are the like evil ones that whoever's on top is getting a carrot and saying, yeah, like we do the, like you do this to them, so blah blah blah, and like all of that. Like there is totally like evil and greed, and I thought I knew that was a part of it back then, but now you've brought me more closer to like the grand majority is ran off of selfish, and like none of this shit needs to really
It's
happen.
like the movie,
Yeah.
like, and that's kind of what I was like. The craziest part is that, oh, what brought me back to your, you also bounced me out. I see your point with realizing that they are the ones putting these movies out. So like the fact that we're able to watch this movie and understand these things, they did allow this to be seen, like, and it is a very crazy idea, like that most directors aren't, or writers aren't talking about. And the point just being that clearly they want us to decipher something, like there is a code that they want, to be known. They want people to, and you wouldn't think that. And that is to your point that they're all, the movie portrays what we're discussing about them, which is so weird,
Right.
which shows they have some sort of goal beyond just destroying things.
Right. Yes. Yeah. That aspect of, to expand consciousness, the person has to become whole, and they have to learn there are people to not be trusted, because and the way you learn that is by being deceived and finding that out, that you were deceived. Because if everyone was just given the answer and the good, part of their philosophy, I believe, is that they think that if a person was just treated with complete, goodness and all of that and given the answers, they wouldn't learn how to not trust people and how to become a detective, so that whenever whoever did replace their power came along, if they were to deceive the person, that person, since all they've known is good in life, like, oh, we've never been cheated, we've had it all easy, those people would be turned into complete sheep. So uh, they prepare us to not have that fate of being completely turned into zombie, like mindless zombies, by giving us little hints every time they deceive us. You
Mhm.
know, a person who wasn't trying to evolve the consciousness wouldn't be throwing all these hints, putting all these little, dates matching with blah blah blah, perfect time of 9/11, giving the little hints of, you know, Al Qaeda, CIA, leaks of, t- uh, Operation Timberwoods, like literally Cuba, um, to invade Cuba. They're going to get planes and they're going to fly them into buildings. None of that stuff would come out. These type of things, if I believe that they weren't trying. There's someone along the chain of command, I think at the top, uh, is trying to get people to catch on, but doesn't want to just give them the answer, because that would, like I said, cheat them of the whole um, um, becoming whole. And that's what Jung always said is, uh, he'd rather be a whole person than a good person. He'd rather know good and bad within himself than just be a than not. And also individuation, which is basically becoming postmodern in yourself, stopping to agree, or just believe the authority of science and religion, and just believe authority. That is individuation, and that is what apparently the mystery schools forever have been teaching. It's how to become a man, because a boy, they listen to their parents. They believe everything they say, like I was saying before, right? But an adult answers his own questions. That's why the killing of the parents is a big
Trope.
or you killing your parents, yes, or your parents being dead in the beginning of the movie. That's like a common trope. Another reason why the parents are usually either dead or um it's revealed to you having like magical parents, and you're growing up with your not real parents. That symbol comes from a totally different idea, but that comes from, in my eyes, I haven't heard this before, but I believe that this is where it comes from. When you see King Arthur, when you see Jesus, when you see Moses, when you see Superman, when you see Spider-Man, when you see Batman, when you see even the Flash, I think only his mom is in the picture, or she's not even. When you see all these people, or Harry Potter, when you see them grow up with a person who's not their parent, or one of their parents is a god, or both of the people who they grow up with are aren't not their parents, and their real parents are royal, or they're godly figures. That is actually hinting at something different in my eyes. That's hinting at you have earthly parents. Those are Ma and Pa Kent. Those are Uncle Ben and Aunt May, right? But you also have divine parents, heavenly parents. That is God. And you don't find that out until usually later in life. And that's what connects us all. That's what actually makes us all special. Each hero is actually a symbol for the person knowing themselves, the person who finds out who they truly are, that they're divine, and that actually everyone is divine and everyone is sacred, because we all come from God. We all come from the source. That is our heavenly parents. And that's like my favorite, one of my favorite you know things. The oh, and in the Odyssey, really quick, we're gonna get into it, but Telemachus whole time is trying to find his dad. Whole time is trying to find Godicius or Godicius. He's trying to find God. He's trying to find his real father. He doesn't know, or like this is our. We all want to know where we really come from. We all really want to know God, but most of us don't believe in it, right? And because when we don't believe in the true God that connects us all, that we're all part of his children, that's when we don't treat each other like we're all siblings. But when you do find that, that's the hero's journey. That's the fool's journey in tarot. The tarot cards start with the fool, and they also end with the fool, because at the end of the day you really don't know, and that's why it's a loop. You really don't know. But starts as the fool, 0, ends as 21, the highest card, which is the world. So the fool turns into the world. In other words, the fool knows that he and the world are all one. He is the world. Because why? It shares the same source with him. You and I share the same source. Me and a bird share the same source. Why I'm vegan? That's part of me. Why would I kill a part of me? Why would I destroy this table? Why would I hurt a person? Because I know that's just going to hurt me, the universe, everything in it. I want to do what's greatest good. So sorry to go on that tangent, but I good to share that, because every time I talk about the Illuminati, I sound like an evil person, probably to most people who don't really think about it a lot. But yeah, just to like I only got there because I started humanizing the Illuminati. Because at first I was like, fuck them, or excuse me, screw them. And yeah, you guys did 9/11 and you guys kill baby with vaccines and blah blah blah. And no, and yes, they do. There's part of that. They do that. And but there's also a nuance that maybe they're doing it for other reasons. And some people are just doing it for themselves, and they're, like I said, pawns in the entire game. But anywho, let's keep going. We ready? My bad.
No,
Okay.
that was great
That was a
stuff.
good tangent to go on. Yeah.
Thank you guys. Love you guys. So, war is ran off. Fine. So we're going into the same thing we were talking about. So that's how everything's connected. Really quick, I want to share this because I don't know if I've ever shared it before. This unlocks, I hope. I'm trying to remember, but I was just reading that if you don't understand if you don't understand the damn, where was I reading? Anyways, if you don't understand what the point of a synchronicity is, you will keep rebirthing. And I believe you keep rebirthing no matter what, because everyone needs to get to that point and all the souls need to help on that. So I'm not one of those people who thinks you stop rebirthing. But anyways, I think your soul gets to a certain level and then it comes back and just keeps being a teacher. But anyways, the person said, if you don't understand synchronicity, you won't be rebirth. And this connects to treating everyone as one kindness, right? Treating them as yourself, because this is what a synchronicity is. I cracked this code. I believe that this is going to. Carl Jung was trying to create in his book. Where is it? In his book, literally called Synchronicity. Actually, that's what it's called. He's literally doing scientific proofs of astrology to be like, okay, this person was born on this exact date. Now let's test them with all the people who were also born on that same date, and let's see if there's a commonality and blah blah blah. And that's beautiful, but synchronicities are so much more simple than that to me. When you and I are talking, say, and a song comes on the radio, and it's exactly what we're talking about, that would be considered a synchronicity. And what it's telling you is, okay, yes, you notice it, and that's good. That feels good. You could take it that you're on the right path, and I would say that what I'm saying goes along with that too. But the message is not really about you. It's about everything. It's that what's going on in that song is going on inside of you and him who are talking together, right? So that song is not separate from you. You and it are the same. You and it are together. That's what a synchronicity means. Um, and darn, I had one good thing really quick with that too. Maybe I forgot it for a reason, but for a good reason, hopefully. But really, just give me 5 seconds if I could think of it first. Yeah, here's what I was going to think of. Perfect. One thing I was recently just learning about, of course, you can't prove it, but when you have a thought in your head, right? Sometimes, according to this person that was saying it, it's another it's another person who you probably know. So no, hold on. Let me start like this. An intuitive thought, what I always say is a thought that comes in your head and it's has nothing to do with what you were thinking about. Really, I mean, like it might, but it's like something just gets downloaded in your head and it almost feels like divinely given to you, and you weren't like even really going towards that. It just pops into your head at the right time. Intuition. Person was saying that this is another person's thought getting picked up by yourself and then you speaking it in your own words, or sorry, because your thoughts sound, when you think in your own sound of your words. But this is but some people, the person was saying that if you're really tapped in the psychic, unseen forces, that you will start hearing it in their voice. And that is, so like, this is just like I know, I don't want to lose everyone and like say I believe in telekinesis like completely, because but I'm what I'm bringing it up for is that we are all connected, I believe. And whenever I'm giving tarot readings, I always tell them, you want to know my my psychic answer? You give me zero time to think, because the brain is my brain. But if you just ask me, and then we want to get the universe's answer, we go with the answer that comes out without any thought, to say, oh, the ego protects you with the mind protects the ego. So the mind will go, oh, don't say that, Michael, because if you say that, the person won't like you or they'll stop listening to you, right? But if you give me zero time to think about any of that, it's really just the subconscious, or could be just the subconscious, or you know but I believe it's the superconscious as well. It's what the universe wants to be said without any filtering. And I think, what I'm trying to say is, like, that's that's connected with, like, probably what the person already even knows, and what they're kind of hiding from, with, and what we all really know. Because, and here's another psychic thing, right? What I say is, and it's the spidey sense. When you well really quick, when you get a text, right, and right before you were thinking of the person, well, that's because you guys are connected, and that's because that person was thinking of you to text them, right? Or to text you, and that's you're getting that telepathy from them. And anyways, going back, the another spidey sense is that we don't have to use our brain for. The psychic is, if you are if you ask anyone to look at a slaughterhouse, and you give them zero time to respond, and maybe put them in a, yeah, you just put you throw them off by looking at it, and then, okay, what does that look like to you? Is that good or bad? They're always going to say it's bad. They're always going to say it's wrong. But your brain might go, hey, whoa, hold on, that's what I eat, and so now I have to justify it, and so now I'm going to justify it by saying I'm above that thing, right? But if you just ask the universe, which you're tapped into by, just your instinct and your intuition, your heart, I believe we're all going to say, no, that's wrong, you know, and then the justification comes in after. But big tangent, just to get these thoughts out there. Who knows when they'll come up again? If they ever will. That's why I just gotta, while they're fresh, while they're out here. Thank you guys for being here with me while I do it. But
Yeah.
yeah, ready for
There
the
was
next.
something that you said during that where you were talking about humanizing the Illuminati, and I think like a big thing for me that kind of helped with the humanizing of people that I think are evil, like regardless of if they're evil, they're God's children too, you know? Like I can't sit here and like cast judgment on people that I don't know, especially, and like hate, especially when Jesus loves everybody regardless.
And the Christ consciousness that some people say is BS, to me is not. When I think of Christ consciousness, though, it's not a big woo woo thing. It is simply forgiveness, which is his main tenet in my
Yeah.
eyes. What did he come here in the story to do? To forgive. And what does he say right before he dies for everyone's sins, right? Not for his sins, but to forgive everyone
Mm.
else's. What does he say? Forgive them, Father, for they not know. Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. And that's his consciousness. That's his awareness level, is he forgives people because he knows these people who are doing it, right? They don't even know what they're doing is wrong. And even if they, like I said, they know it, their brain and society has has made it so that knowing, you can't even hardly feel. It's been quieted so badly that, yes, they really don't know it anymore. They
Mhm.
don't. If they ever did know it, they don't know it, and they don't know what they're doing is wrong. And that's the Christ consciousness, to not be judgmental.
Mhm.
The final judgment is forgiveness. In the tarot, it teaches you this. That is your
Mhm.
rebirth. The rebirth is to become Christ conscious, and to forgive. That's the key word for the final judgment, forgiveness. And you have to forgive yourself too. It's, you know, at the end of the day, we could say it's our fault. We could say it's whoever's fault, right? Keep passing the buck to whoever. But you know, yeah, it's really like, I don't want to not hold people accountable, but a lot of it is really not their fault. And but to go back to one of my other favorite quotes in the Bible, this is Old Testament though, or wherever James is in the Bible, I believe it's in the book of James. It goes, "For he who knoweth to do good but doeth it not, to he it is sin. To him it is sin." So when you do know, yes, you're committing a sin. But even then, I believe, like, yeah, you know it's wrong, right? But do you really know it's wrong? Like, do you feel it in your heart that is wrong? And I feel like a lot of times it's hard to feel your heart with all of these problems we have in our own lives. It's hard to open your heart and feel it again, you know, and to have the pure heart, you know. But thank you for touching on that again, James, and thank you for bringing that up. The children of God aspect, we're all children of God, is so, that is as deep as it possibly gets. Is we're all part of the same source, and that's why we're all family. Our bodies separate us, but our source combines and, you know, unifies us. So that is the other, to me, that's the other, like, that's like the end of the rabbit hole. Like, it doesn't get any deeper than that. But, or like, knowing that you are part of everything, that's as deep as it gets. And then, like, you come to that by starting to forgive yourself and others. You know, to really feel that and believe that, you have to forgive everyone, basically, because if not, then you're going to still look at them as lesser.
Right.
All right. So,
And real quick, I think the rest of your notes would be a good, like, you know, closing thing of the movie at least. But there was one other thing I forgot about. Just like a real quick blurb thing that, like, the very ending, the last scene, is really crazy and kind of connects to what you're saying, I think, which is, like, I had written down that they, you know, you mentioned it earlier when they're talking about the soldiers as, like, in this animalistic, like, he literally says, like, lower state, which I also thought was really crazy. That's, like, kind of like new agey
yeah,
kind of speak.
that's a baser animal, they'll call
Right,
other
right.
animals
And then in the end,
or people.
they show, you know, when they bring out this German, you know, captured woman, and they show her, like, all these soldiers are, like, screaming, and they're kind of like in that lower bass, animal bass frequency. And then she starts singing, and they all get quiet, and it's like this crazy emotional thing that kind of shows that, like, and there was no real dialogue. She's singing in, like, a different language, and they're all humming, and that's kind of what it is. It's like
Universal.
even the enemy, yeah, the enemy, they capture the enemy, and she sings, and they all start crying basically after completely, like, objectifying her or mocking her at least.
You're right. Beautiful, bub. That
Kind
is
of to
what's
go off of what you were saying about, like, I had just have another quote written down from the movie, where Colonel Dax, like the titular character, like the main character, you know, he says that patriotism is the last refuge of a scoundrel, which is just
Yeah,
kind
it
of like
is.
another quote that highlights that, like, he sees these soldiers that are, or the higher ups see the soldiers that are working for them as like lesser than them, like lower creatures, calling them scoundrels and like
Right.
talking about how they have to cling on to the patriotism, and that's like their only hope in this like hopeless thing that they're doing.
Right. So he's even judging them.
Mm.
Yeah. But it is it's a more truthful statement though. You know. Okay. So warriors ran off finding tribalism and differences in one another and hatred for the other. The opposite of kindness and treating all as one kind. The enemy must be dehumanized and the inferior must be thought of as inferior, or soldiers wouldn't be able to treat their comrades or enemies with the indifference they must for wars to be fought. Could an officer send the enlisted into battle unless he weren't brainwashed into an artificial social hierarchy first? Could blue and red soldiers be convinced to shoot at each other if they were told the truth that the biggest difference they actually have is really the color in which they fight? I don't think so. So, yeah, it's and her they say the angels speak in song. She's, that angel, the messenger for God, which God wants good. God wants everything to come together. So
Which in a way it sort of does too. Like
harmonizing like a song.
he orders them to commit a literal war crime, like shoot at their own people, I guess, to scare them, and then that ends up being what is his demise. Well, not only is it his demise, but the people who were honorable and refused to. They were technically just following orders, though. I guess technically, if he would have brought the signed note, I guess they would have fulfilled his orders, but maybe they even wouldn't have, just because they refused it at that point, speaking to him, and that ended up that guy, you know, holding to his, morals, I guess. Even though he said it wasn't about his morals, it was about the rules, but it still ended up being, to your point with God's plan being good. He ended up, you know, saving them at the end of the day, I guess, in a sense, because he now has to go to trial, and they have written record of it, and that will be his biggest failure, because he did all this to climb the ranks, or to continue to climb the ranks, and he ends up, you know, being put on trial, which is like the opposite, obviously.
Yes, and I'm glad that James brought up that this is a real thing. And so whoever wants to, hopefully one day there will be a video on the real thing that happened. And this movie gives us that feeling, but that James brought to the audience's attention that something like this, or this exactly did happen, is beautiful. That's what we just, and like, I think like the feeling I got from what Trevor was saying was like all of these things where he messed up on, and all of these things that are going to come to light are actually like kind of beautiful. That like that's part of God's plan, is like this evil had to be done almost so that we could learn from it, or so that we could see we were even capable of it, and see how we were doing it on a small scale or on a equal scale in our own lives. Right.
Yeah.
So due to this film's grand scale, it's the first movie that to me really felt like a Kubrick film, especially with its microcosmic symmetries every turn. That being said, the classic look of the 50s is still there. Inspiration from Hitchcock and The Twilight Zone seem present, but Kubrick's own style clearly outweighs these influences. And now, our final thing to touch on. Cancer. How does this connect to cancer? Right? Well, Cancer's keywords are from a simple Google search. I couldn't think of it when I was like trying to make this review, but like the one I usually think of is nurturing, and that's the second word that Google came up with. So now let's look at the words, and I can't wait to hear what you guys say. Pick a word and just go off it. I'll pick the one word that I chose, and I have one sentence about it. And this is why in the beginning of the video I said it's it's a clear cancer film. The film is all about cancer. And when I like figured that out, I was so happy because first of all, I love cancer. Cancer's that nurturing, but like, and I love them all, but like, I'm partial to the kind, and we need to learn a lesson from all of them because we couldn't have kindness if we didn't have um, our own if we didn't have self-interest, which allows for love to even be shared, right? So, but yeah, once I saw cancer was so represented in the film, it just it just made me happy. A lot also because it kind of alleviated the fear that this movie didn't have to do with cancer, which was kind of where I was like, like I started this off to make it, like they're all, but I don't really see how cancer's in this film. But once I saw nurturing, I was like, oh, there it is. So, but anyways, emotional. I mean, obviously, right? Nurturing. I'll say why exactly. Intuitive, protective. That ties into the nurturing aspect I'm about to bring in. Sensitive, sentimental, loyal, and moody. So, what the sentence I came up with is the colonel is nurturing towards his men and protective too, right? So, that's the cancers, and Katie is my example that I always think of. She is the protector of her family, immediate family. She's the defender of them all, and the extended family. She does not. She's very loyal. She will stand up for meanness against any of them, and she is the one who wants to bring them together the most. She is the one who goes 4 hours out of her way every holiday. Meanwhile, everyone else is 5 minutes away from the meeting place. They they are very nurturing. And who do you nurture? You nurture your family members first. That's and then your friends and then everyone. But honestly, like the coolest thing about cancer is like cancer, the first water sign, they're really good with nurturing their family. And Pisces, my sign, the last sign, really good about nurturing everyone else or like trying to make them feel loved. But when you're doing the Pisces stuff all day, going around and being so kind to everyone, you come back home, in my case, and you're the opposite of what you're doing outside, and it's very sad. That is my biggest character flaw, I would say. Um, Other than I also don't look out for myself enough, or at least that was the biggest one growing up. But like that is that's the thing that I know Katie does not do. Katie is the same person, like, and she's probably just as good of a person out there too. Although, you know, I've like injected myself, like not to toot my own horn, but like if I have the opportunity to inject myself in someone's life, I usually do, and I'll be like, "Here's my number. Call me whenever you need me." If I just met them that day, I'll be like, "That's my house, but come, like whatever." I'm not scared of that. I want that. I like welcome that. But anyways, I think that can be a little draining, and that's what the cancer, like if that's the goal of the zodiac is to, you have this gift, you have this predisposition, now get every other one from all the other zodiac signs, which is very hard to do, but yeah. Anyways, you guys want to talk about the any of those other words before we go?
Um, I know, like, emotional. The movie was incredibly emotional. Or, I mean, that was pretty much the main display of the film. Was like it was emotions on display. At least the most impactful scenes for me, anyway. It was people portraying emotion very, very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Extremely emotional. Could make you moody.
Yeah, definitely.
Could make you moody seeing this film, right? Like Trevor had an experience with I mean his sister was really getting emotional, but like that I wouldn't say moody. Moody's probably the worst word for this film.
Yeah,
Although that like moody shapeshifter freaking general, he kind of like is he moody? Like I guess he's moody, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean he's just like an opportunist, but
And
not
that
Right.
was, I guess, like another. I guess with Moody, you could kind of make the argument that there were kind of the two bad guys. Like there was the one that was kind of like ego driven narcissist and was like very upset that his pride was wounded, and then you had the other one that was like polite and smiling and like very nice to, not like nice, but like kind of more nice and presented more nice, but was equally evil. He did the exact same evil acts that the other guy did.
Yeah.
So I mean,
And
maybe
Dude,
that's
that's
kind of
such
a Moody point.
Yeah, and he was all that's almost like even more evil because he's the top, he's the reason all of this is going down, and he isn't as obvious with his reasoning. Like he basically convinced everyone from the top down almost that this was good. Or
Mhm.
that is what's kind of crazy about this movie is like he didn't even really do that. Like normally they would make it more so like this is good what we're doing. But that's what's
Mhm.
crazy about this movie is like it is basically just like you're gonna get a promotion if you do this, and he does it, and then he goes to the next guy and he's like, this is for your country, and he's like, so but yeah, Moody, that is a good one because that guy that was polite, the top dog, he was kind of moody at one point when I've kept I've been kept away too long from my dinner guests. I'm being rude, and it's
Mhm.
like, bruh.
It's like we're talking about dudes' lives right now. You're worried about your dinner guests.
it's like,
Yeah.
and it's so funny because like it means nothing to him because
Yeah.
he's making a war. Three lives are like nothing. Even though it's like there's more thought put into those three guys. And also the moodiness could come into like which is completely understandable. And this is like far reaching stretches of, like pulling at like the movie doesn't have to have moody in it.
Yeah.
I think Cancer's true trait is nurturing and protective.
The loyalty is
The harm.
crazy too.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of a big theme of this whole movie is blind loyalty, but also true loyalty to like that Dax had to his men, essentially.
And last thing, the rightfully so, the people on death row are moody, in their
Well,
so
then they have that kind of emotional flip that Trevor brought up earlier too, where they're like they juxtaposition kind of like what their mood was going into the cell.
yep. Well, all right, we killed it, guys.
I think so.
Definitely.
That was your last thing with the Cancer?
Hmm.
That is that
I think that
can
did
see
tie
that.
together pretty well,
Yeah.
though. Yeah.
And now our next film will be Leo, and it's not Spartacus, although that's his next film. But we're gonna do Leo is I want to say Lolita, and I could easily already see that with Leo's wanting to be loved by everyone. Um, really, disgusting, perverted way of going about it. But this old man doesn't want to just be loved by people of his age. He wants to be loved of younger people, loved by young people. So we're gonna we're gonna, cross that path when it comes. But we knocked out Cancer the first time that it wasn't on the last day of the zodiac sign, so I'm happy we did that. But we did it on a weekend where it was, more. It's the last weekend of the zodiac signs. So yeah, I love you guys. Thank you. Let's keep the ball rolling. We're going to go Leo next, and then what do we have after Leo?
Doctor Strangelove should be coming pretty soon too, right?
There you go, Virgo. And that's another thing. Like I've said in the last review, the first 6 movies are black and white, not including Spartacus. Spartacus, not black and white, but his 2 movies after that are black and white.
Interesting.
Okay. So
That is a
Perfect
very
6.
good point, because when we first discussed the editing distinction,
Mhm.
because I was like, doesn't he have 13 movies? But with Spartacus being left out because it wasn't edited, I was like, okay, that makes sense. But the fact that it's not black and white is even crazier. That's like
Yeah.
pretty distinct.
And it's crazy how different, like Doctor Strangelove in a way is really like the next war movie after this one, in a way.
Yeah, no,
Because it's not,
it's revolving around.
yeah, it's just crazy how emotionally grounded this movie was compared to like how emotionally detached the whole idea of Doctor Strangelove is. Because I love that movie; it's a great one.
Oh,
I've seen it a couple times at this point.
good point, James. And now Cancer, emotional water sign, right? Okay. I think I was thinking about this earlier too. I was like, yeah, well, I wasn't thinking about how detached how he detached whatever the Doctor Strangelove is,
Mhm.
but that proves what I was thinking of with the war film that's maybe the most emotional is of course the war film that coincides with a water sign, right? Because if we go to it, Scorpio, that's not a war film, and that would be Clockwork Orange, and then we have Pisces, which is Eyes Wide Shut. So, but anyways, yeah, good that we're all seeing these signs, and but yeah, first 6 movies, the day side of the zodiac, it's called the first 6 signs, all the way through Virgo. The day signs, they are black and white. Maybe by coincidence, I don't think so. The last 6 are in color, right? And obviously the time period more black and white at first, but like I think it even ties in with like day sign people are very conscious, very aware, in the moment, focus. They're more, at least I think, and then they're all conscious. The subconscious is the night side, and they're the more like daydreamer type of people, more abstract type of people. They are not as believe like day sign, day side is more. I'll believe it if I see it. I like to say, which would be the black and white. It has to be, like the male reason, masculine, logic based, conscious based, sun based. Sun is obviously masculine. Sun is, I could see everything during the daylight, and it's very obviously what it is. It's material, it's obvious. The night side, the moon, dreams, sexual attractions, which can be crazy, completely feeling like they're random. Like, where did this even come from? Or why would someone even be attracted? Like, all of these things that are completely abstract. Um, that's all the night side. And those people can be a little bit more like they're maybe the believe like they'll just believe you on your word, or they don't need uh, a material proof, which obviously there's a good and a bad of having both of the day and the night side version, right? Day side
Mhm.
person, right? You're not going to get over on a day side person pretty easily, right? They want they're not going to get lied to without it being in writing, right? And when they see it in writing, they'll notice it because they're more tapped in with this conscious material world. Night side person, they might just go with it. You know, and that's the receptive moon as well. You know, the feminine is receptive. They receive, you know, they're more likely to just follow, to support and stay in the background, you know. Anyways, we can notice all that too with these films. I believe, I'm sure, you know, these are going to be more day versions of their element, you know, and you know, this water emotional film is a very overtly day oriented, you know, clear as day. This is an emotional film, you know. You know, it's the night side, the Scorpio and the Pisces are more psychologically emotional, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
They're not as in your face, you know. You're, you know, the psyche, the internal, not the outside that you could see everything, but the internal, which is hard to, you have to intuit that about yourself and about others, their psyches and your psyche. Those are the ways that the Scorpio film will manifest it, I believe, and the Pisces film will manifest it. And just to start, Clockwork Orange. This is like when I saw Clockwork Orange. You know, I don't want to go on too many rants. This is the last one. Clockwork Orange. When I saw that, that's when, because I looked at the movies, I put 1 through 12, and then the first one that stood out was Clockwork Orange as Scorpio, and I was like, hold on, wait, a movie about perversion, and everyone says that not that they're a pervert, but that they are the sexy sign. They are the most mysterious, the most dark sign. They always get the worst rap. Scorpios, Geminis. Sorry, Trevor, for whatever reason, Gemini but I mean, like, Gemini didn't really line up with it, but like Scorpios and Geminis are the ones, and I don't agree with that because obviously my best friend and you know, Capricorn being the other, but like with James, and Capricorn is another one that gets a bad rap for whatever reason, but that's not what it's all about. Like the Capricorn, when I saw The Shining and Capricorn's getting a bad rap, that also connected. I was like, okay, though, I could see, you know, this makes sense. But gosh, we're gonna crack this wide open because I don't think it's being talked about a lot. James and I were talking about The Shining already,
Yeah.
and that's why I kind of am very sad that Katie's not here, because she's the Cancer and she would really elaborate on all this. She would just be like, "Yep, that's exactly how I feel." But I think I did her justice because I've known her since childhood and we grew up together, like she was my sister, across the street from me. So yeah, really good. Love you guys. Thank you. This is a great time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We are
This is a good one.
warriors of love. All right. Hey, instead of whatever they're doing in this movie.
Right.
The bad war. But anyways, no, a lot of it was a war for love with the other guy, with Colonel, we know. All right. Peace, guys. We will be joined again very soon. Thank you all for watching and have a great night. Goodbye.